Welcome to another episode of the Gull Mouth Action podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at Brighton, Hove Albion and Crawley Town. I'm Matt Poll, and this week I'm joined by Brighton writer Derren Howard, Crawley Town expert Mark Dunford, as well as Sam Morton, who covers both the Seagulls and the Reds. Albion came from behind to beat Premier League champions Manchester City on Saturday to inflict a fourth successive defeat on Pep Guardiola for the first time as City boss. We'll pick over the bones of the Seagulls' superb win over City, plus we'll bring you all the latest from Crawley Town, who are in league and cup action this week. You can read all the stories we're talking about with videos and pictures online at sussexworld.co.uk/sport. And you can check out other great videos on shotstv.com and Freeview Channel 262. You may also be watching on Latest TV, so thank you very much for tuning in. But we'll start at the Amex, where Brighton picked up a remarkable 2-1 win over Man City. Albion trailed to Erling Haaland's 23rd minute effort, but João Pedro and Matt O'Reilly struck in the second half to claim 3 points for Albion. And it sounds like a deserved win, Derren. Sum that game up for us, please.
Yeah, it was almost a mirror image of what happened at Liverpool when Brighton played really well in the first half, and then suffered in the second half, and then obviously came away with nothing from Anfield. And it was the reverse at the Amex, where they weren't. Well, actually, Manchester City were very good. They did play very well in the first half, but Brighton were just a little bit off the pace. And but it all changed around in the second half. They played much better. And the crowd really played their part as well. I was speaking to Sam after the match, and it's one of the best atmospheres I've seen up there at the Amex. And the way that the crowd got behind them, the Brighton were playing on the front foot, and it was really good a really good watch, and an impressive second half performance. But overall, it was the substitutes that made the difference. I thought Carlos Baleba, coming on in midfield for Yassin Ayari, who'd been booked in the first half. I think he made a huge difference. He was he just came into the team with the belief that he can change the game, and he dominated the midfield. And then also João Pedro came on, also got his goal as well. So he's been out for the last 6 matches with an ankle injury after he was clattered in the later stages against Nottingham Forest. So he came back, got his goal, and then Matt O'Reilly, the 3 substitutes all combined. It was Baleba into Pedro. Pedro fed it through to O'Reilly, and on his return as well, he got the winner, and it was thoroughly deserved. And I thought overall it was a great performance. Bart Verbruggen again looked great in goal. Joel Veltman, Igor and Van Hecke were great against Erling Haaland as well. And it even saw Pep Guardiola have a bit of a meltdown at the end when he had a go at Van Hecke, which I thought was unnecessary, really. I thought he was out of line, really, to really pick out Van Hecke. And they were giving each other grief all the game, Erling Haaland and Van Hecke and Igor. It was a real physical battle. And I just thought it was fair play to both. They were both a really good tussle, and I didn't see the need for Guardiola to really make a big deal of going out to Van Hecke and publicly having a go at the Brighton player, who I thought played very well and handled that situation with Guardiola quite well. He looked quite bemused, he couldn't. It's all just a bizarre sort of exchange, really. So. But yeah, overall, a really great performance from Brighton, and good to go into the international break on the back of that victory.
Absolutely. Well, Man United and Spurs have already been beaten at the Amex this season, a sign of the confidence Brighton have on their own ground. But was this easily the most impressive victory of Fabian Hezela's short reign so far, Sam?
I think it's got to go down as the best one. I think that Spurs game was epic in the way they did come back and win. So that was brilliant in its own right. But I think to beat Man City, regardless of what form they're in and what injuries they have, it's always going to be a huge victory. And for Hezela to beat Guardiola so early in his managerial career in such a young age, it's brilliant, and it would only give him confidence going forward, I think, and as well as the players, that they can take this really as a marker to show you really can beat anyone when you play at your best. And in the second half, Brighton were at their best. Really, they made Man City look bang average. I think obviously that wasn't the case early on, where City dominated the ball and they could have been 2 or 3 goals up. But Brighton did respond so well to that goal that City scored. But as Derren said, the real turning point was when Carlos Baleba came on at half time and completely changed the game. And I think with someone like him in your team playing the way that Baleba is, and the confidence seems to be flowing through the Brighton players, I think, it just really goes to show you really can beat anyone. And obviously, Pep losing his 4th game on the bounce for the first time in his career, obviously probably had a bit of an impact in his behaviour at the end, because he did lose the plot a little bit. And it was quite funny as we were speaking to Van Hecker in the mix zone. Guardiola actually interrupted him again, kind of halfway through, to kind of almost kind of sarcastically shake his hand and wish him best of luck. It didn't seem fully sincere, but so as Derren said, you don't really like to see that, and I don't think there was any need for it at all. I completely agree with that. But I think Van Hecker,
I love to see it. It's great. It's great. It's box office. You got to love it.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining, hasn't he? Did he do it like with Nathan Redmond? Was it
Nathan? Yeah, he had a real go.
And he's done other things like that. He's a bizarre character, isn't he? But sorry.
Yeah, but he's obviously under a lot of pressure, so I imagine that's probably had an impact on his behaviour, I guess. But a lot of problems for City, but all looking rosy for Brighton.
It is indeed. And one of the promising signs from that game was summer signing O'Reilly, who had been out since his injured since his debut on the 27th of August, and he scored the winner with 7 minutes to go to seal the win for Albion. Derren, how pleasing was it to see the former Celtic man make such a telling impact on the game following his injury woes? And I read that I think Azella and Danny Melbeck were on many who were so pleased for him at the end of the game.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see why as well. It was a real blow for him. I think it was 6 minutes into his debut in the game against Crawley Town, Carabao Cup. He'd literally just arrived from Celtic the previous day, been on the pitch for 6 minutes, and then it was the Crawley Town captain, Jay Williams, who clattered into him. And he hobbled off.
It was a good tackle. He just mistimed
it. Sorry, I missed that.
It was a good tackle, just mistimed.
Mistimed. It just mistimed it. Yeah. But it was a crunching tackle, and it put O'Reilly out. He was expected to be out until sort of December, January. He needed surgery on his ankle, and then it was going to be a bit of a lengthy rehabilitation. But he came back ahead of schedule. And what a way to come back, just coming on, in the closing stages and then getting the winner against the Premier League champions. It's really, the sort of the reward for all the hard work that he's put in to get back on the pitch. And I think Brighton fans can now look forward to, seeing more of that as well, and to have him back into the team and, really going strong as he go into the sort of the festive fixtures. That's a real bonus for Brighton. But he's an interesting character, Matt O'Reilly. There's a good podcast on the Albion website where he's speaking about his sort of mindset throughout his recovery period. He's big into meditation. He's got this guy from India who he speaks to, sort of this meditation guy, and he's always big into sort of this mental approach to the game. And he says that really helped him. So he said when all of his family were around him and other people around him sort of blaming Jay Williams, and and he said there's a lot of ill feeling towards him from certain people that are close to him, but he said he sort of forgave him instantly, and he was just said that if he doesn't forgive him, then that would impact the way he recovers, which I thought was an interesting way of looking at it. So yeah, he's quite deep into all that, and he said it really helped him to come back stronger and fitter. But yeah, it's a good listen if you get a chance to look at it. So
I enjoy it because Brighton fans clearly still haven't got over that tackle. And my favourite tweet was, I can't remember what somebody tweeted. It was like, I take that, Jay Williams, kind of thing, when Matt O'Reilly scored.
When he scored, yeah.
And somebody replied, what a sad little life, Jane, which referencing the come dine with me sort of thing. And it cracked me up. But yeah, just he kind of thinks, yes, it was a dreadful tackle, but these things happen in football.
Yeah.
You move on. And why are you talking about Jay Williams when he wasn't? But because he was asked about it. But why are you talking about Jay Williams when Matt O'Reilly's just scored a winner against Man City? Against Man City. Bonk.
Yeah, it seems an odd way to come at it, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Like think, it's and you're right. O'Reilly didn't come at it in that way. No. He was responding to a question. But
Jay Williams is injured at the moment, so there you go. Irony.
Yeah. Karma coming around, some Albion fans would say. Yeah, absolutely. Another player who received heaps of praise following the City win, we've spoken about him, was midfielder Carlos Baleba. The likes of Danny Welbeck, Alan Shearer, Glenn Murray and Warren Aspinall have all been effusive in their praise for the young midfielder, with Aspinall saying the 20-year-old was already on par with ex-Albion man Moises Caicedo. Sam, how impressed have you been with Baleba, and do the Seagulls have another gem on their hands?
They absolutely do. Yeah, I think he's been the star man of the season so far. He's added goals to his game as well. And he's just been absolutely class, really. I think obviously he had a bit of a slow start to his Brighton career where he was kind of settling into a new country, new league. And it was always going to take time for him to become his best version of himself, really. And he seems to really be on his way now. And he's showing some top quality performances. And it didn't really get much better than that against Man City coming on at half time and completely changing the game. Because as I say, City were quite dominant for large parts of that first half. And Brighton did miss that kind of controlling presence in midfield to take control of things and take the pressure off other players by holding the ball up. And the way that he glides through players is just something to behold, really. I think he just gets the ball in defensive midfield and he can just run past the kind of 4 or 5 players and take them all out of the game. He can pick a pass, short or long distance, and split defenses open. And it's just his power and kind of just how much control he has of the midfield is really impressive. I think he's only going to get better as well. So it's a really, really good performance against Man City, and I completely agree with all the praise. And as you mentioned, there was a bit of a segment on Match Today where they talked about how quality performance it was and how much of a difference it made in the match. So yeah, really, really promising signs, and it looks like Brighton have managed to find that replacement for Caicedo, which was the big question, was if they'd be able to do when he left, and it now finally seems like they have that ready-made replacement. And he could be even better. You never know. Time will tell how he develops. But obviously, Caicedo really himself has become the player that we saw at Brighton at Chelsea. He's been really good for them this season as well. So, yeah, signs are really good. But I think you've also got to obviously praise the subs. Obviously, other subs, João Pedro and Matt O'Reilly, for the impact they had. It's so good to have them back. Really, I think obviously all the talk build-up was in the build-up was Pedro and O'Reilly being back in the squad, and I don't think anyone would have dreamed that they would be the 2 players to actually win the game, kind of thing. So I think it's a really good day for Brighton on all fronts, really, getting these players back from injury, and it really does bode well for future games.
Absolutely. Well, Albion going to the last international break of 2024, 6th in the Premier League, but they only trail third place Chelsea by virtue of goal difference. Derren, what do the Seagulls have to do with keep up the European chasing pack? And do you think this young Brighton team can make it into the top 4 and maybe even challenge for the title?
It's going to be very difficult. You look at the teams above them: Liverpool, Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal. It's hard to break into that group, especially when they're such a young. They're at the sort of the beginning of their sort of progress under Herzella with the players they have, but they've proved they're capable of competing with these teams, and now it's just about showing consistency, especially in the next run of games against Bournemouth, Southampton, Fulham, Leicester, Palace. That they're going to be the ones, if they can come through that pretty much unscathed and be consistent in those run of matches, and they're going to be there or thereabouts. But having Lewis Dunk back, keeping João Pedro fit will certainly help their cause. But I think if I had to guess, I'd say top 6. I'd say, and that would be a fantastic achievement, I think, this season.
It would be indeed. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk all things Crawley Town. Welcome back to part 2, where we're going to dissect Crawley Town's week, and starting on Saturday, where Huddersfield twice fought back from a goal down to force a hard-fought 2-2 draw at Crawley in League One. Rushian, Hepburn, Murphy, and Max Anderson netted for the Reds, but they were pegged back each time by the Terriers. Sum that performance up for us, Mark. On paper, it seemed like quite a good point for the Reds.
Oh, really good point. And it was probably the best game I've seen at the Broadfield Stadium this year. Both sides really going for it. Huddersfield, really impressive side. And I think Rob Elliott said afterwards that he thinks they'll be, if not win it, certainly be in the top 3 or 4. But it was really good performance from Crawley. And even there was a couple of fans actually at the end, because they all walk by the press box as they walk out. One gave me a thumbs up and said, "I'll take that." And another one said, "Wow, what a performance. Absolutely brilliant," kind of thing. And it really was. They played really well. 1-0 up at half time. Really good goal from Hepburn Murphy. And it was, Will Swan and Ronan Darcy. Will Swan put a brilliant touch in. He was fouled, but the referee played on, but he got a little touch to Darcy. Darcy played a ball through, and Hepburn Murphy so quick. And it was one of those ones where you could see the defender running in with him, and he got there first, just flicked over. He could have easily gone down. No, he carried on, and from the tightest of angles, curled it around the keeper. Lovely finish. But then straight after half time, it was a really disappointing goal to concede. There was a header at the near post from a corner. But Crawley was still on top, but really attacking. And another really good goal. Harry Forster this time did really good work down the right-hand side. Ball fouled to Ronan Darcy, and he did a pinpoint accurate pass to Anderson in the box, and he just slotted home. And you thought, here we go, this is one of those great days, that thing. And then literally a minute later, I actually missed the goal from Huddersfield because I was doing a live blog and typing up the goal, saying, oh, what a wonderful goal. We're only one team going to win it from here, kind of thing. So I saw the goal. Yeah, it was just a really disappointing goal to concede again. But after that, it was all one-way traffic with Huddersfield, and Crawley found a different way to play. And Elliott highlighted this afterwards, that they had to defend, and sometimes they're going to have to really do that to save a point, save 3 points. And they did it really well Saturday, and certainly from a lot of set pieces, a lot of crosses into the box, which have been Crawley's biggest weak point this season. Did really well, and actually I think everybody was really happy with the performance and with the point at the end.
Absolutely. Well, post-match, manager Rob Elliott singled out 3 Reds players for praise. Which Crawley trio stood out to Elliott against Huddersfield, and do you agree with his appraisal?
I did, because I asked him about 2 of them, which I think instigated the praise. So, but first of all, he highlighted Max Anderson. He scored his first goal for the club, came from Dundee in the summer, midfielder. He's been playing really well, and he said Rob Elliott thought he was unbelievable on the day. And he wasn't quite my man of the match, but he played really well. And he's all over the park, defensively really good. But he always looks to be creative, and sort of once he gets the ball, if he's facing his own goal, he'll quickly turn and look and try and find that sort of pass to get another attack going. But it was a lovely finish to make it 2-1. But yeah, he's really good. Connell Truman, first, he's obviously come back in, goalkeeper on emergency loan because of Jojo Walcott's concussion from the Maidenhead game, and he's now on international duty. So he's had to bring him back in. His first spell, he let in 9 goals in 2 games, and you sort of, you weren't quite sure. But he's played really well in the couple of games he's played so far this time round. And in the first half, he pulled off a really good save when it was 1-0, I think, to Crawley. So it could have got Huddersfield back into the game early on. But it was a brilliant save, and we interviewed him afterwards as well, and just what a lovely bloke he is as well. He just seemed like a really good character. What you expect from a goalkeeper. Goalkeepers are normally a bit crazy. Well, I wouldn't say he was crazy, but a really good personality. Played really well, and I think Rob Elliott's really glad to have him in. Who was the last one? Bradley Ibrahim. That was it. With Jay Williams out injured, you need someone in that pivot, just breaking up play, breaking up attacks. But I think one thing Ibrahim's got maybe more than Jay Williams is that sort of drive to go forward as well. He got a bit of bite about him, a good tackler. But then on the ball, he's really good. I mean, he's an Arsenal youth, so you'd imagine a player like that, a midfielder, would be good on the ball. So, yeah, no, those 3 players played really well. I mean, they all played well. Ronan Darcy was excellent again, set up both goals. But those 3 players, worth praising, I thought.
Absolutely. Well, Tuesday night saw the Reds bow out of the greatest competition in the world, the AFL Trophy, after a 2-1 defeat at League One leaders Wycombe. It looked like a valiant effort from a much changed Crawley side, but obviously it wasn't to be on the night. How was it, Mark? How did you see that one?
Yeah, it was like I think Rob Elliott said afterwards, it was just like a training session for him, really. Yeah. I asked him before last week's press conference, I said, is it a game you could do without? And he sort of joked, am I allowed to say yes? I don't think he was a fan of the competition, and with all the injuries they've got, it was. But they played well. It's good to see Tola Shawami have a start and score. Elliott praised him yesterday in the press conference, looking to head to Bristol Rovers. Says he's only going to get better and better. So we've got a piece going up next in the next couple of days about Tola. But yeah, Connell Truman again saved a penalty. It was a really good free kick that gave Wycombe the win. But Crawley could have got something out of it, but even a win, I don't think would have got them through in the group. So they came out of it with no injuries, and I think that was the most important thing for them, especially with Bristol Rovers coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it there. Elliot, as you said, compared the Wycombe tie to a training day, and as you said, he seemed very happy to escape Adams Park with no injuries. Bigger fish to fry, Sam. It doesn't seem like there's going to be too much heartache about exiting the EFL trophy with a place in League One at stake.
No, absolutely not. When you look at the league position, has to take the priority. I think obviously the defeat to Wycombe does mean they're unable to progress to the knockout stages of the competition. But Elliot, as Mark says, not too bothered. He said he didn't like the competition as a player. It doesn't seem to have changed as a manager either. He said it is a great competition if you get through to the final stage. But for us at this moment in time, with the squad depth we have, there's pros and cons to everything. I think the most important thing is everyone comes through unscathed. And they managed to give a debut as well to Tyrese John Jules. And he was pleased with his performance as well as the whole team. So he definitely took positives from it. But in terms of the result, I don't think it mattered at all in that sense. And apart from that, they obviously they've had a good November. They're obviously unbeaten in the league with a couple of draws. So they're starting to get a bit of a kind of run of games where they're stemming that run of obviously defeats they had. So hopefully they can build on this and turn those draws into wins, and that has to take the priority to get out of the relegation zone, starting obviously with the trip to Bristol Rovers.
Just worth saying, last year they did really well in the EFL Trophy. They got to the quarterfinals, I think, where they lost to Peterborough. And actually, it was sort of like the making of a few players like Joy McKenna, etc., came through because Scott Lindsay played a completely different side going through the competition. And so it does have its benefits when you've got a fully fit squad, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very fair assessment. But the Reds have also been busy off the pitch this week, landing a new contract for one player while bidding farewell to another. What's the latest in terms of squad news at Crawley Town, Mark Dunford?
Yeah, so the good news was that Yemo signed a new contract. He's the 26-year-old. He's now at the club till 2026. He scored twice this season, including the winner against Cambridge United in the second league game of the season. And that was a cracking goal. I love watching him. When he's on form, he is a great player to watch. He skips past players. He's quick. He's good feet. I think finishing is where his sort of final ball finishing is where he needs to improve. But really good player. And he's had a really interesting upbringing. He was at Millwall. But I think somebody told me that his parents wanted him to get a proper education before he went into full-time football. So he played for Cray Valley Paper Mills, and then got the contract at Crawley. So really good for him. On the flip side, we've seen Scott Malone released. It's been quite a long sort of unspoken about saga. He played the first couple of games. Now the club have announced that they've parted ways with him. There's not a lot more we can say. I've reached out to all parties involved, and nobody can actually say anything at the moment about it. So I'm sure it will all come out at some point. But so at the moment, Scott Malone's left, which is a bit of a shame. Good experienced player.
Absolutely. And this Saturday sees the Reds visit Bristol Rovers in League One. And Elliot has scored in his place to attack the game at the Memorial Stadium. Positive words from Elliot. Sam, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, a tough one to call actually, because Bristol Rovers have had a very up and down season. It's been very inconsistent from Bristol Rovers. They didn't win a single game in September. Then they started to improve with a couple of wins at the start of October. And then since then, it's been very up and down. So it's a tough one to call. I mean, when you look at the league, Bristol Rovers are in 16th place with 17 points. So they're 5 points ahead of Crawley. And they've also played one game fewer. So they're obviously having a better season than Crawley when you look on paper. But you never know. I think Crawley, as we've mentioned, have got a little bit of form behind them. Obviously, lots of injuries. That's one thing that you obviously do worry about, and kind of the squad depth they have. But I think the performances have been improved from a Crawley perspective, and you just hope that they managed to get the job done. But it's a really tough one to call. I think if they get an early goal, obviously like they did before, I think it could be one of those where they can nick it. But it's just important not to concede too early, because then it could become one of those where they struggle to get back into the game. So I think the first goal is the important one in this, and look forward to seeing how it goes.
Absolutely, and I'm going to put you on the spot now, Sam. Score predictions: Bristol Rovers, Crawley. How do you see that one going in terms of the scoreline?
I'll be optimistic. I'll say 2-1 Crawley.
Mark, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, I was going to go similar. Whether they can win there, and that Rob Elliott was talking yesterday about how much of a hard place Memorial Ground is to go to. I'm going to go 1-1, and I think that will be a positive result as well. But after that, Crawley have got Saturday, no midweeks, so for a couple of weeks. So hopefully that will bode well for them in terms of getting players back as well.
And it'll only be a benefit to Rob Elliott as well, implementing his tactical style as well, you'd think.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
Last but no means least, Derren, how do you see this one going in Bristol?
Yeah, well, I was going to agree with Mark, actually. I was going to go for 1-1 as well. Yeah, like I said, very difficult place to go to. But yeah, I think if they can get a draw there, that would be good for them. Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, chaps. As ever, you can catch up with all the latest sports news covering everything we have talked about today at sussexworld.co.uk/sport, and you can watch more excellent videos on shotstv.com and Freeview channel 262. Thank you very much for listening and or watching, and we will see you all next week.